If the red light is on, I don't know if it's actually streaming, it might. I don't know if it's streaming or just recording. It's just streaming. If it's just recording, it means I'm going to have to upload it later. Okay. What? Yeah. Well, it's 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. The Clintonville Area Commission Zoning and Variance Committee, Steve Hardy, the chair. We have a quorum. Andrew will be taking our minutes. Do I have any objection to the agenda? Then they're approved without objection. At the draft. Oh, just in case anyone missed it, the meeting is being recorded. The microphone is there. I circulated draft minutes from the previous meeting. Did anyone see any issues with them? If not, could we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's 5 yes and 2 abstain. Oh, someone is, who's there? Sharon is here and 1 not voting. But
Well, she'll be back in a second.
1 not voting, but that's,
Yes.
it's okay if she stepped out, that's fine. Good. And we have a quorum, so we have clear, right, so we're fine. There, on to the variance agenda. The first one is CV 23059, GC 23027. It's now 4260 Indianola Avenue because that's where the sign will be. The Open Sky Day Spa seeks the variance to allow an off-premises sign in the same location as the existing sign. Yeah. I think we have, just please give your name and who you are for the record.
I'm Sherry Gunn. I'm the owner of Open Sky Day Spa on Indianola Avenue. Just talk about the variance.
Yeah, could you maybe stand up that way?
Sure.
And people, yeah, go ahead.
Should I just talk about the whole history of what we're going through, or?
Why don't we stick to the history around the sign?
Okay. I purchased the building 22 and it had an existing sign off premise. Right now I just have a rack around the existing sign for the Sky Day Spa. The original sign to the previous owner is actually underneath it. I wanted to update that sign, make it nicer. Rotting. So I contacted The Night Signs, who created a sign for me. They're a professional sign company in town. I had requested to have the sign moved onto my property. However, when they went to install the sign, we found that the gas line was right in the same location as the sign. So now I know why the sign was off premise 4 feet north. If I move the sign 4 feet south, because of the gas line, it will take parking space I need. So I am requesting variance for a new sign. And I do have the new sign in the paperwork as well.
And it'll be circulating all of that.
Yeah.
And the way, just so you know, everyone, just the way things always work here is the applicant gives their presentation. I don't see either of the commissioners here. So then there's questions from the committee. And then we go, if you're here to comment on the variance, I promise you'll get your chance to talk. Okay, so go ahead.
So it's a monument sign, which is required by the area. The Night Signs will be installing it as well. The amended first page of the application is with the business owners, 4260. For which the property the sign is on, signature and blessing for the sign. So I'm ready to go.
Do you have any questions from the committee?
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you contact the Ohio Utilities Protection Service to get the location of the gas line?
The sign company did.
Okay, and there was no way to, like, miss it because the gas line was only that so wide, so it seems like you could just move over off.
The sign company recommends 4 feet from the gas line for the install. The sign has to go, it's a metal rods, so the sign will stand up, so that needs to go pretty deep underground and to safely install it is I'm dealing with this, it's their recommendation.
Just for the record, that's not a bad recommendation, but
Yes.
not a requirement. But anyway, that's fine. I was just curious.
Any other questions from the committee?
How does this proposed location of the sign correspond to any existing monument signs for the parcel? Is there an existing sign at the location you're proposing to put this new sign at, or is there any existing signage for your parcel?
Yes, and that's what I'm replacing, is the existing sign.
Are you replacing it with the same location, or is it?
It is 1 foot north of the existing location. The city has a 15-foot right-of-way, so the current sign is at 14 feet, so it's going to move.
Along in the Enola, which direction are you moving it 1 foot?
I'm moving it 1
Or
foot
east?
west.
So you're on the west side of the street, you're moving from the west to make it 15 foot.
From the right of way, yes. There's a lot of requirements, yeah.
No more questions from the committee? Anyone here come to speak on it? Did not get a going once, going twice. Did not get a commissioner's report, so now it goes to the committee. Let's just do a motion to approve for the second, and then we can, actually, no, do you have any other questions? We'll do a motion to approve with the second, and then we can discuss.
Motion approved.
Got a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, that now it's up for discussion. Okay. Well then, call for a vote. Call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so that's a vote recommended approval 8-0. You should show up at the Valerian Commission meeting next Thursday. And even though their meeting starts at 7, they've been putting the zoning agenda on at 8 o'clock. It's still wise to get there at 7 in case something weird happens and everything gets moved up. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. But they will be done by 9 because the library closes at 7. Thank you. You can stay and listen to the rest, or you can leave if you want. You don't have to stay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is CB 23059, 3894 North High Street. The applicant seeks a variance to permit a multifamily use in an R3 residential district. I hear the applicant.
Yeah.
Yes, you can stand up and come up front, and that way.
No problem.
you can give your name and your job title and
My name's Evan Montgomery. I'm a real estate agent with Coldwell Banker Realty, and I am the project manager for 3894 North High Street. We bought this property anticipating that it was already zoned in a way where it was set up for multifamily. It was split up into 3 units. It had 2 kitchens in there. And we figured out it was under something which was just non-conforming. We definitely learned a lot about zoning laws through this process. But we realized as we started to work with an architect to develop this into 3 residential units, that we would need to have a zoning variance to switch us from residential to multifamily. We anticipate making one of the units ADA compliant so that we can diversify the housing stock here in the Clintonville area, and we think that our plans completely align with exactly what the commission is looking to see.
Okay. Are there questions from the committee?
How many units are you making with this, looking at making this parcel? I heard 3.
It'll be 3.
Do you know the size of the parcel?
I don't off the top of my head, forgive me. So we're,
358.
we're not,
335.
thank you. We're not adding any, size to the building itself, it's gonna stay as the structure is now.
Thank you.
What was it being used for when you bought it?
It was a call center,
Oh, okay.
and it had a residential unit up top. Some of the neighbors might know, we found out it was actually a, phone sex call center.
Oh, okay.
We didn't find this out until we were in contract and went through our inspection. Our inspector called me and he's like, do you know what this place was? I was like, yeah, call center. He's like, you should get down here. You can handle that, just let us know. But yeah, so up top there was a residential unit, a large 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And then downstairs there was like what seemed to be an old, just residential unit converted into an office. And then on the back there was an addition that was put on. So we thought it was already in 3 units or at least 2 before. So that was on me that I didn't understand the zoning.
Actually, I did one just clear, is there anything that would limit you to putting 3 units in this place? So that a future owner couldn't just put in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units?
No, we believe that 3 is the maximum here.
What makes it the maximum?
So actually, yes, we do believe that you could go to higher amount of units. What we intend to do is split the lot down the road, and we intend to build a mixed-use building in the lot to the left. We think that that will also be right in line with what Clintonville is looking to see. But through the city, they asked that we get the zoning variance and do the multifamily project first before we pursue any sort of lot split. That way we can continue on with our plans.
How would you split the lot if there was a single building unit?
So it's actually a double lot. Yeah. So the northern part of, there's just an entire parcel to the northern sector of the lot.
So if you were to split this lot, what would you be looking to add at this new building as far as density?
We're thinking something similar in size with number of units, but we'd like to make it mixed use. So maybe add something like a coffee shop or just any sort of potential business down the road.
So I think I would comment,
Yeah.
my concern with this development
Yeah.
arose from the Clintonville neighborhood plan.
Okay.
And while making this a multifamily residential unit
Yeah.
is in line with that,
Okay.
where it recommends a density of not more than 10 to 20 families per acre in that area across in the green zone from
Okay.
Torrance to, pardon me, I can't remember the other street.
Okay.
Overbrook was the
Yeah.
other street. What it does say is no commercial development shall be permitted in that area.
Okay.
So my,
No problem.
while not pertinent to this variance,
Okay.
my concern with hearing you're going to split the lot and add commercial
It was a potential
that
concept.
area isn't in keeping with the Clintonville neighborhood plan.
Whatever we do moving forward, we'll make sure to stay within the Clintonville recommendations and interests. So if that's something that's not of interest, I thought that I read that there was interest in mixed use, so we'll definitely stay within line.
They do not have to come back for a lot split, but if this is zoned for multifamily residential, they would need to
It's
come back.
R3.
They
It's
would
not
need to,
multifamily residential right now. It is
Right.
R3.
they would have to come back if they wanted to put commercial in
Correct.
it.
If we wanted to do something similar.
Especially if they wanted to put a restaurant use in it. Everybody,
As I said, that objection is not pertinent to.
It's pertinent to the
planning on
future.
doing for this lot,
Yeah.
so I don't want to cloud the issue, and I apologize for bringing it up. I just
No
want to
problem.
Caution you.
No, I
That
appreciate
is
that
something
feedback.
that in the future,
Yeah, might not be a good fit. I appreciate that feedback, because from my understanding, I thought that that was what Clintonville wanted to see, and we were, only worry we had with this is that the interest was mixed use opposed to all residential, so that's good to know. Thank you for the
it's
clarification.
traditionally been office on the bottom.
Right,
And I know that there was a close vote 4 or 5 years ago, I think, for a few doors down there, where someone wanted to put in a small kitchen
okay,
and sell takeout. The commission had recommended against it.
okay.
It was a close vote, so all I can tell you is it would be likely be a close vote again. I can't.
So if
think of
anything with office space, or anything with mixed use, it would be intention for office space below, nothing with any sort of restaurant.
that's the traditional use. That's
the intended use per the neighborhood plan is for light commercial
Okay,
use,
Okay.
offices, et cetera.
okay, And that's what we'd be looking to stay within. Sorry, I'm more of a representative, so the big vision, I might not have hit on that. Appreciate the clarity.
And would you need to get an additional variance to put in multifamily and to put in another 3 to 4 apartments?
Yeah,
Why is that?
from my understanding, if it's zoned R3 already, we would need to do the same process.
But we're zoning the entire lot as multifamily, right? So if you did a lot split after this, you would have.
This is council variance.
It's a council variance.
It's just a variance, yeah.
But if we turn, excuse me, it's just a variance.
To be honest, we haven't looked too far into
Just
the
a
next
minute.
project. We want to make sure we can move forward with this one before we
I
get
see,
too far
just
ahead
a
of ourselves.
Okay, I see, so it's not,
Why would you not rezone to make it a permanent use instead of variance? I mean, I don't know if that's a question for you or the committee, but would you understand the difference between, like, why wouldn't you rezone the property to make it conform use for what you intend to do with it?
For the variance, we took the advice of our architect on this.
No, it's too late, it's here for
I
this
think
now.
the
Right.
city decides
Yeah, I
that.
think
You
it's-
submit the application and the city
Yeah.
decides whether it's a rezoning.
but they strongly recommend, let's put it that way. And if he could have asked for a council variance to rezone,
Right,
he's entitled to ask for it, but it's a recommendation.
right.
And it's a recommendation you don't follow, you know. So you're right in practice.
You're good.
Yeah. Right.
What would prevent someone from, if you got this variance, from just tearing this place down and building whatever the maximum height is, I don't know what the maximum height is, 35 feet, it's 35 feet, and build like the maximum height and putting in 8, 10 apartments.
So we have zero intention of changing the structure of the home. That's really all I can tell you. I guess I don't really know what would stop someone from doing that outside of it just not making sense financially. I thought that there was some sort of limit with the multifamily variance, but I'm sorry, I can't answer that question directly.
I did get one comment from a nearby neighbor, who said they thought 2 to 3 apartments is a no-brainer, yes.
Yeah.
And 6 or 8 or more is more problematic.
We were under the same, we thought we were capped at 4 with this variance, so we have zero intention of turning this into something like that.
What makes you think it's capped at 4?
I'm sorry, that's just what I thought.
Okay, I just wondering.
No, I guess I didn't like hear that from anywhere, I just thought it was
It would
4.
certainly be capped at 4 if it was a rezone.
I thought above 4 was commercial.
Areas
Yes, or
that
it's
cap at 4.
commercial and then he was in the stormwater costs.
So they did more than 4 on this lot, they'd have to come back for
4 or more is commercial.
4 more, so 3 is, they can do 3
Mhm.
without, the 4 more is commercial. I didn't realize it was an apartment complex considered commercial.
Yeah.
I thought it was residential, that was like ours.
There's 10 parking spots for 3 units. What are you doing with the rest of them? Are you keeping them, or how's that gonna work?
So we saw that there was a suggestion from the city for maybe a tree island back there. We figured if the parking spots, as the parcels are like this, parking spots go all the way across the
Yeah.
back. So we intended to just split the parking spots
Oh, I see.
with the lot down the road, but as of right now, we'll just have the extra parking spots as guest parking.
Okay.
We know that Clintonville wants to see all parking spots behind the home and hidden as well as possible, so we think we're in a good position.
Right.
I think having there be some limit is something that would make it easier to get approval along the, yes recommendation. So that's the reason I was pushing you.
Okay,
It wasn't,
I understand.
there's a natural limit, it makes people less concerned. But are there any other questions from the committee? How about the person who told me that gave me their name, it's Dana Bagwell and her father. Live very nearby. Do we have any more questions from the committee before I ask? Is there public comment?
Hi, Sandy Simbrow. I wish that whoever buys this property since 1913 would do a better job of doing their homework. Because this property has come up repeatedly since 1913.
Wow.
That's before I was born, okay? And I have here a letter dated March 26, 1953. This is my most current document. It was authored by Roland Sedgwick, who was an attorney at law who did serve with the city. He was a city attorney, council person, I don't know, whatever else, asking for clarification on this property. When it was bought, it was part of the Fuller Farm, AKA Whetstone Park. We all know Whetstone Park, Barbarossa. And in 1952, somebody sold this parcel, the one you're looking at, to Mr. Gallo. Guess what? He was a suit maker. If you've lived in Columbus very long, you know Opie Gallo suits. And so he was going to live there, and he put an addition on for a shirt shop, a tailor shop. And it was brought to his attention, no. It is zoned for single family. That block has been protected since 1913 because of its proximity to the park. It was to be maintained. There is a deed restriction, however, there's a lot of legal, the attorney up there would have to explain how deed restrictions can be upheld or not upheld. That this could only be a single family so as to maintain the residential community park relationship, because putting any businesses or multifamilies right across from it takes away from the country setting, which was what Jim Rhodes and the Fullers and all the other people who developed Whetstone Park, it was to put an oasis in the city, okay? And in 1952, the city corporation was Morris Road. So granted, Whetstone Park was, you know, kind of like almost to the suburbs. But this has come up over and over and over and over. And the one thing that has always snuck through is as long as the business that was there also was occupied, hence there you found an apartment at the 6 Chat Lane office building because people could live there while there was business going on. But somebody had to live there that was part of the business. So we have gone through that with this property, the property at the corner on the other side of the AT&T building. Steve, weren't you around for the AT&T building?
I know. Is that the bakery?
No, that's on the other side. No. North. Born. You got the question property, then you got the vacant lot, then you got the AT&T building, and then at the corner.
Oh, you mean the utility building?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's not. That was CV 96.
Okay, so that's before your time. And the reason that got through was because it had zero impact. It did not bring any people in. It just, might not be the prettiest thing, although it's not bad. They keep it to. The next property north was Dr. Borges, who was a dentist, who was living there and had his dental practice. But then he decided to move out and wanted to keep his dental practice there.
Okay.
The answer was no. It is either you live there and you have an office, or you don't live there and you don't have an office. The property at the corner of, help me, go south. When you go on the other side of your question property, Don McTighe had his law offices in there with an apartment on the second floor. And I believe that had to have, I don't know if there's a variance on that one or not. But I know there was a great deal of, because it's a unit with a parking space. Here again, minimal. So historically speaking, because I am old enough to remember Mr. Rowland said, "Rick, we were this in 1953." And no, I didn't know that. But because historically, this property keeps coming back, it hasn't changed its location. It is still directly across the street from the park. It is still very, very, that is a community oasis. As you drive up North High Street, once you get past the fire station, and that's where all of a sudden you have trees, and there is a visual calming because there aren't any buildings coming at you. It's a tranquil place before you get to the craziness of Henderson and High. So if you have any questions for me, or if you would like a copy of Mr. Sedgwick's letter to put in your file, I would be glad to give it to you.
Would you like that to go into the?
I guess if you read it, it might be part of it.
I will tell you there is one, although it's a fascinating piece of history, but there is one sentence that is particularly encouraging for all of us. And it's most important in my estimation because it is immediately across the street from the park. If these heat restrictions break down, it will open the door to hot dog and ice cream stands, which will deteriorate the neighborhood and surrounding park. That was the attitude in 1953.
Oh, it doesn't. I don't
Put it in there.
Okay. What was this, was there, is there any occupied use of this place between the phone sex line and you?
No, there wasn't.
How long is it?
It was vacant. COVID, I guess the operation went remote, so it was vacant for a few years. It was pretty dilapidated.
One question, I'm sorry for, go ahead. Is the end, is that still, does the dentist still live there above it?
The Borghese was at the next corner. That was part of that block. I don't think there was a doctor's office in there for a time. There was a doctor in there before.
Is there a professional who works and lives in that place now?
Wait a minute, which property? Are we
Whatever
talking about?
the property you're saying that,
The property that the dentist had was Glen Mountain High. His property that he is addressing was a doctor's office. It was a doctor's family,
okay,
and his office was there.
okay.
Yeah.
Do I have other questions? So we're in the audience participants. Anyone else have a comment? Okay. Now it comes back to the committee. Can we do a motion to approve and then discuss? Motion. In a second. On the floor.
So, there's two parking spaces back there, right? And the building with 3 units and we require 6 spaces. So if they split the lot in half, that's 5 spaces, don't have to come back for a parking reduction to split the lot.
It's possible,
Potentially.
but unless they can find a different.
Depends on how it's laid out.
Maybe come back and then split one out.
Should we be getting into future conditions of the lot? Or should we be considering what the applicant is asking for right now? It's a valid question, and I understand.
And I just want a little discussion, so I just want to respond to Ms. Simbro's statement. And that is fascinating, and it is quite a piece of history. I think real estate needs to be held to its highest and best use. And maybe the highest and best use for that building is a 3-unit apartment complex. And if the building sits empty, I mean, it's empty buildings with restrictions on them.
These properties across from the library have always been separate from what else is going on in Clintonville. They were set up, even in the neighborhood plan, as something that was intended to provide a buffer or a barrier for the commercial and larger development in that area to keep that feel. Now, you're out of, you already have essentially a multifamily development there. We're almost being asked to approve an existing condition. Am am I not incorrect on that? It's currently a
Yeah.
multi-family dwelling?
Yes.
Well, there, you said there are two kitchens.
So there was two kitchens. The one was an office downstairs.
Okay.
And the back was really just kind of, I
So-
guess, office space, but it was really
So to
garage,
date,
like-
it has not been used as a multi-family residence?
No, sir, it was mixed use.
Or they don't have, there's no existing variance or zoning that would approve it being such right now,
Right.
even though it may have been used that way.
Right, I
because
just
it
think
had-
they were non-conforming.
And, I'm sorry, I interrupted. Did the prior tenant leave Clintonville, hopefully?
I'm not sure. I think so. I think they still live in Columbus, but I'm not sure exactly where.
Are you talking about the call center?
The call center.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will say that what is called out in the neighborhood plan does allow for multifamily units in that area. The only thing that's called out there is no new commercial development.
I would think that multifamily in that close proximity to the library would be highly desirable for folks. You know, if you want to access the park, and access all the amenities that are back there.
I'm curious about the statement in this letter from Mr. Xavier that says there is no provision in the deed whereby there are expired, that is, the restrictions on the property. And I don't, I mean, he doesn't state anything that supports that.
It's in the deed history. It's in the deed history.
In the deed history.
Any other comments from the,
I guess my other comment would be, I don't know if anybody else knows, but is there a lot of multifamily along High Street currently? And
Virtually across
Along
the
High
street
Street,
from the
or
park
are we-
is an apartment.
along High Street,
Are we talking specifically in the called out area from Overbrook to Torrance? Because that's a different, saying along High Street is a nebulous term because High Street stretches from the south of Clintonville to the north, and it's very distinct along its different segments. So this specific segment is called out in the neighborhood plan from Torrance to Overbrook to be treated differently than the rest of High Street. So if we're gonna consider that, I think we have to just look at the rest of the area in that segment, not the entirety of the street.
I can see that. And, but you did say the neighborhood plan does allow for multifamily, so.
Correct.
There's multi-family between one and one.
Correct.
But that's up at the curb too, that's kind of a different feel, so.
Again, it goes back to the statement that they're different segments of High Street.
any other comments?
Do you know if a deed provision has the ability to override a,
The answer is, I don't know, and I was gonna say, I have no idea about the power deed restrictions, and that, I guess my thought is the deed restriction isn't, if there is a deed restriction that's effective, that's their problem. And that's not something we can vary. That's,
I wasn't familiar with that.
I'm not either.
A governing concept relative to zoning.
I think it could overcome the liability if they're using it in a way that was restricted, like a covenant or something. But I don't think it would have any influence or matter for zoning.
we do not override deed restrictions, and whatever it is, it is. I've learned not to practice law about things I don't know anything about.
I guess, can we ask that?
Sure.
Have you guys reviewed the title, and are you aware of any restrictions in the title that would prevent you from operating multifamily?
We did not see any issues, but we'd be happy to take a second look if it's something.
I'll let you take a picture of the letter that she
If
submitted.
you'd like him to.
At the end of the meeting, we'll let you,
Yeah.
or actually, no, we don't.
Actually, I'll just give them a copy.
You just give them a
That'd be
copy.
great.
I don't ever come with just little copies. My attorney friends taught me that.
Thank you very much.
From what we were told from our real estate attorney and our architect, was just that we needed this variance, and that we should be able to obtain it with no issues. But we would be more than happy to look into anything that the committee suggests.
Do we have any other discussion from the committee? Oh, no, so I guess it's time to vote, and also we can give reasons. Remember, we're gonna give reasons to help the commission understand why we're doing what we're doing, help put it on the minutes. Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a question? So if they split so you said we're not talking about future,
Correct.
but they could split it, and just curious, they could split it and come back and have 4 or 5, 6 units?
They say right now, if that is important to your, they're saying they don't think so because this is only a use variance and it would only allow them to put in multifamily, which is
Yes.
up to 3.
Yes.
And I don't know if that would, and if your assumption, and one thing I can do is I can send an email to our neighborhood liaison when we're done and say, can you verify this before the commission meeting? But if you, one thing you can say is yes or no, and then say, it would change my vote if, and he'll record that.
Yeah. That
That way we give the commissioner best advice, and I can, is there any other discussion? I don't want to cut people off. Okay, I'll start over here at this time.
Yes, I think it's a really good idea to reuse some of these properties to their highest and best use, particularly on that street.
Yes.
I'm also going to say yes because I think the proximity to the park and to the library makes it more desirable for this to be more.
I'll also say yes, I do express concern over future development on the site and hoping that we will adhere to the Clintonville neighborhood plan in any future development that happens here.
I'd be happy to stay in direct contact, so.
Yes, it's probably the highest and best use for today. And I want to echo what Mike says. Any future development, hopefully it mirrors what's already existing there.
I would say yes, and kind of echo that concept with the assumption that if they went beyond the 3 units, that they will require a variance or
Revisiting this committee.
revisiting the approval.
Come back.
Yes. With the concern that I raised, that everyone has kind of said the exact same thing, just concerned for future use.
And I'm gonna vote yes as well, but I'll also echo the same thing, and I will ask our neighbor liaison to see if they get an answer to, would they have to come back? Because that seems to be an assumption of our committee, that they would have to come back to do more than 3 units. And I thought of the deed restrictions, why don't, that's not our enforcement. If there's a deed restriction and it restricts them, then they're just out of luck. And I've noticed they are doing a significant amount of renovation to look like they're at least renovating the outside. They're not increasing the footprint of the place. This is less use than it used to have. Less use than it used to have with all the with that phone sex line coming up. And no concerns from the immediate neighbors other than we don't want a giant apartment complex there. So those are my reasons for voting yes. This then, that's recommended approval 8-0 with those explanations. It goes to the commission next week. You need to be at the commission meeting, be there by 7, you might not go until well after 8. As I said, it will be done by 9.
Okay.
And thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you there. You can stay and listen, or you can go if you like. You're welcome to stay. Now on to the last item on the agenda. CV 23065, 170 Chatham Road. The homeowner requests variances to increase the garage size to 1,092 square feet, increase the height of the detached garage to 22 feet 1 inch, and allow for habitable space in garage to not be connected directly to habitable space within the single unit dwelling. Now the applicant is here, and just give your name and the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, I'm Lorraine Krzeski. I reside at 170 Chatham Road, and we've been working with architect Brenda Parker to propose some remodel of our existing garage. As you just heard, it's the new design as proposed is a little bit taller and a little bit bigger than what we normally allow, but we feel that it's being designed to fit the character of our home and the neighborhood. Brenda couldn't be here tonight, but she will be here at the next meeting to answer any architectural questions about the design. But we did receive word back from the city, who's also been looking at the variance, that the Department of Development Planning Division is in support of the variance request as submitted. Department of Public Utilities was more concerned that we need to tie a sanitary, if it was a full-on like carriage house, but it's not. It's a garage with habitable space up above is how it's being proposed.
Okay, do we have questions from the committee?
What's habitable space?
We've talked to her about wanting to have some space up above where we park our cars for some storage, but maybe at some point in the future it could be, I guess, turned into like a den or a place for our boys to kind of hang out, like a little rec room.
So water, heating, cooling, any of that?
Water, yes, and heating and cooling is a mini split is what we would likely go for, because it doesn't require like a full-on outdoor units. Mini splits, if you know what those are, but they're pretty small and they accomplish both.
So if you had water, you have sanitary?
Yes, there would be a sanitary connection to the house for the water.
You're removing an existing garage to put up this new structure, correct?
No, we're not removing the existing garage. The existing
You're
garage.
adding on to an existing garage?
Yes.
What's the square footage of the existing garage?
It's 20 foot wide by 22 foot deep.
440 square feet, per your plans. You're looking at increasing the footprint of the garage to 1,000 square feet on the first floor?
Yes. Well,
2,000 with the second floor? 2,000 square feet with the second floor?
No.
So what is
You
the
guys get-
total square footage? I get that, I understand, Steve. The first floor of the garage is how much square footage?
The first floor of the garage is, we're taking the 20 foot wide garage and we're bumping it, extending it back. And towards the back of the new addition, we're coming out 6 feet to accommodate a set of stairs. So the whole garage is not, how to explain this? I think she has included square footage for the sidewalk approach to the door and the overhang that covers that little sidewalk approach to the door. So that's not livable space. That's just the covered space, the impervious
So
space.
what is the enclosed square footage of the proposed building on the first floor?
I don't know.
It actually says here 720 square feet to 1,092 square feet.
Asking the question to
Oh.
to get to a point. So you're you're adding a second floor to that as well, correct?
We're adding a taller roof pitch and some dormers, so
So
yes.
you're adding a second floor to that first floor as well, correct?
Yes.
Yes. How much is the square footage of the second floor, please?
It is, I'm sorry, 20 foot wide in the front by, I think, 40 foot deep. It should be on the variance, all these figures should be on the variance, and I'm sorry, I don't know off the top or haven't done all the extra math, but.
I guess what I'm getting at, what I'm concerned with, is you are adding an entire second house to this parcel by square footage. Many Clintonville homes are only, on average, 1,400 square feet. You are adding 16 to 1,800 square feet. You're adding an entire second home onto this parcel.
I guess we don't.
What's the hardship? What is the hardship that you are asking us to grant you that requires adding an entire second home to that parcel?
Well, our current home is smaller than the square footage that you just did. It was the average in Clintonville. Our current home is a little over 1,300 square feet. And believe me, we've looked into adding on to the current home. We've looked into developing space in the basement, but we're really maxed out, and we are choosing not to add on to the back of the house because we want to preserve the location of the existing garage. It's 81 feet back from the road. The lot is pretty deep, so it definitely accommodates it, but we couldn't add on to the back of the house without really narrowing the entryway to the current garage. We also would be taking away a lot of the light, the natural light that comes into the back of our house and our kitchen. So we didn't want to do that. And our basement is just the way the house is built. It's not really conducive for turning that into a little rec space. We want to stay in Clintonville and have this accommodate the storage needs that we have. We've also even looked at doing something with our attic, the attic space, to make that more supportive, and can't make that work either due to the fact that there's no good access from the second floor to the attic.
Thank you.
Other questions from the committee?
Can I ask a question about the function of the first floor? So it's a two-car garage, but then it's going back and under schematic or the plan diagram, you're showing room for a third car. And then what is the space anticipated to be used? Because it looks like it can fit 4 cars, but I understand the access, and you're only showing like one door here. So what is that space used for?
Just a little workbench and some, like a little workshop space, so
Okay.
that we can work on the car or just have that to store some tools.
Okay.
We also, the 20-foot wide garage, we both park in our garage and park inside. It's just really hard to get bikes in and out of the garage, and we try and have a space for 4 bikes. So if you look at my car in the parking lot, you see a lot of things, and I just wish we had a better place for the kids and us to store our bikes and things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, where are you proposing that the water and sanitary would come into the garage, do you know?
We believe that it's just going to run along the west side of the current garage, just connecting, that's where the stack is on the house, the sewer stack. So we may have to tear up a little bit of the driveway to connect the two, but we've discussed some options, either with directional boring contractors or to have a trench to do an open cut between the garage and the current stack. Because there's not a full kitchen and we're just accommodating, the water from, the sink or whatever minimal plumbing is in the garage, we don't have to worry about as much of the sewer connections if we had a full-on second home. And that's not what we're zoning for us. That's not how we're considering this.
What's the water for in the garage?
A sink.
Have you had any discussions with your immediate adjacent neighbors about the project?
We have, the neighbors that would be most affected by this project are our neighbors to the east. And, we talked to them, and they said that they were rooting for us. They did not object. They would appreciate the shade. So I think that being the most affected by this project, we got the okay from them. We're also using the exact same architect that they used, so they know her work and her designs are quality and fit the character of our neighborhood. We also were able to discuss with our neighbors the garage project that was done on Acton Road by the same architect. If they wanted to see what the look of the garage that we intended to build was going to look like. So I feel like we had some good buy-in from the neighbors. We're not going all the way to the back as far as we could to the back of the lot.
Thanks. You might want to ask your neighbor to have that in writing by the time you go to that variation. Should might help.
I guess, can you talk a little bit about the materials on the, I assume the picture roof will match closely, it looks like it is gonna match what was already at your house, is that correct? And the materials, can you talk about that?
Yes, the current materials of our home, we have a Dutch colonial home that's 2 stories and has a big front porch across. It has a taller siding, so we definitely want to match something, make something that looks like it would fit with the house if it were built at the same time. The board and batten, I think is what you call it, siding is kind of a popular way if you want to kind of create a little bit of a breakup in the look of a design, so we talked about that. I'd say that the house at 105, or the garage at 105 Acton is probably the closest to actually see something in person that's built to what we want to create. Theirs is a little bit wider because they were starting with the garage, I think it was 23 foot wide.
Any other questions? Was the sewer your idea or the city's idea?
The city commented on the sewer as if, just the way I read it, it's a caution that if you're creating a second home, carriage home, whatever, that it requires a connection from the sewer to the street, not through the home.
So is that in your original plan, or is that what is that in your original plan, or did they tell you you have to put that in?
They said you would have to put that in. I'll read you what they wrote.
No, you're just asking, I'm just saying, is that there because you wanted to put sewer in it, or is that because the city said, no, you need to put sewer in it? Or is that just part of just how things worked out as you were working with them?
I think the Division of Sewers and Drains was part of the staff review on the variance, and their comment just said that the parcel has access to 8-inch sanitary sewer. The proposed living space over the garage requires a separate sanitary service, but our architect said the sanitary comment applies if you have a separate dwelling unit, which we do not.
All I can say is the city has been really weird on habitable space recently, and there's some tension within the city about what that means. We even had one person have them change their definition of will.
Yeah.
The city changed it, and I think that may be some of what you're saying. Used to be this, you didn't have to call it habitable space, and if it wasn't like, if you didn't have a full bath, then it's like you had to have a full bath in there and a kitchen, or maybe it was just a kitchen, something like, they actually wanted it to be almost like a mother-in-law suite before they called it habitable space, but they've changed that, and basically, if you want to live up there at all, if you want to exist up above it, then you need a habitable space variance. So that's, if you have confusion, it's because the city is confused.
Just curious, if you were to rebuild this garage, would you have to get a variance to put it back in the same spot where it is?
We may need a variance. I think it's like 4 feet from the property line on the west, and I don't know what the zoning requires as far as the proximity to the west.
You mean 5
Side
feet
yard.
from property line.
From
Okay, so we have 4 feet right now.
I was trying to see if we granted any if there are any variances on 105 Act.
There was.
There was?
Yeah, it was February, of this year. We recommended approval 5-2. That garage was 3 inches taller and it was taller.
Let me see what the commission.
What was the size?
Square footage? I will, come back to you.
The 105 bumped out on the back as well, they didn't just go up to the back.
I was pulling up just to see what the commission did on it. Let's see, commission, because they actually put CAC, make sure that this really is an approval, it's labeled approval. CAC voted to approve the variance request due to several factors, including letters of support. This is like they have letters of support from both adjacent neighbors of the property. They had the roof pitch better aligned with the primary structure than would occur at a 15-foot height. Existing front and side placement of garage does not change. Second floor would not be living space, and doing so would require additional variance. Applicant is aware of the increased square footage would have implications on property taxation.
105 Acton was 32 by 22, so 704 feet roughly.
Was that a variance or a council?
That was a BZA variance.
Right, but this is a council variance.
Right.
So this is different.
Right. Yes, it is. And that is, they did say here specifically, there was no living space. It was on the second floor.
Because this applicant is asking for living space, that's why it's a council.
Right.
Well, I guess that goes back to your question, what's living space, because 105 Acton did have a column.
But if this gets a council variance and it is living space, then they can go ahead and put in the kitchen and bath and everything like that, because the council said that it can be habitable space. Unlike the other property where they have water, but they can't put in the kitchen and bath.
I just, one thing maybe for the commission, you can go to, the BZA's, the zoning website where you can look at all the zoning applications. I would pull up all the stuff and read what BZA did, what CAC did, just so you're aware of what they did. No, this is different. And I think, but the compare and contrast is important. There's a lot of contrast there as well.
So I think the other one with the Acton, 105 Acton, they were not asking for a square footage variance for the garage. They were under the 720 square foot limit.
I don't think they were under 720 with the second floor.
That's what, well, not with the second floor, but, okay, so I asked that question. That is not germane to zoning, because zoning only, right now, under the rules, only accounts for first floor space on accessory buildings, not second floor. But I bring it up because it's important to keep in mind what you're actually having. But that's, yeah, so the Acton, 105 Acton was 719 square feet, looking at the plans now. So it was under the 720, so while they were asking for a height variance and a variance for the habitable space, they were not asking for a variance for the square footage.
Just to be
And
clear.
in this case, a comment, the applicant brought up, the house is 600 square foot. You're adding a 1,000 square foot accessory building. You're adding an accessory building that's larger in square footage than the house.
But I wasn't saying that these were the same. I'm saying you can make comparisons. Being able to make comparisons doesn't mean the same. And so what you were saying is perfectly fair, and inconsistent with me just bringing that up. It wasn't trying to tell everyone, we approve, I was not trying to say 105 Acton got approved, so therefore this should be approved. But that was, I think we should treat similar things alike, and seeing what's been done in the past is important, even if it's not identical. You can compare and contrast. In which,
Yes, sir.
so,
No, you were completely correct, and that's why I bring up the points that I brought up to show the differences between the two projects.
And this is clearly also stated to be wanting it to be a habitable space.
question, would you be, my understanding, you'd have to get a multifamily you'd have to get a multifamily variance to be able to actually put another, to move a second family and rent that out.
And that's definitely not what we're talking about. We didn't call this habitable space. I think the city has called it habitable space because of the way they're reviewing these things now, but we just see this as a garage with space up above that can be used as a rec room. We basically have underused space behind our current garage, and we thought this would be a way to make better use of it, realizing that our boys need some space, and we don't have any place to create for them in our current home. And I feel we've exhausted a lot of the other options that many homes normally think of when you think of additions.
So your current house is only 672 square foot, the entire house?
No, it's like 13. It's a little over
Okay.
13. It's a two-story home, Dutch colonial.
Well, it's 2 stories, you go over.
Exactly.
So you've got a 7th floor.
I was attempting to try and bring it to a similar comparison number, which is, it's difficult to compare the fact that you have a 1,300 square foot house on 2 floors, where it's a little disingenuous, where they're saying, oh no, it's only a 1,000 square foot garage, when it's really 2,000 square foot. So I think trying to bring the numbers back into some form of common comparison for everyone.
Just my only quibble with that is I wouldn't say disingenuous, I would say the way the city calculates it is misleading. Disingenuous is who she's trying to intentionally mislead us.
My apologies, I did not intend to insinuate that the applicant was trying to mislead us. I was a lawyer.
Disingenuous is fighting words among the people. That's
My apologies.
So that,
We also haven't, thought about how the upper second level could be finished if we did try and finish it. I mean, with dormers, I don't think you're going to have the same exact square footprint that you have on the first level that you have above. It's going to be narrower. So.
Unless your boys are really short.
They are not. That's the problem. They're not. They're big. Their bikes are big. So.
So does anybody understand why this project would be treated differently? Like council variance would modify action was treated like
I was thinking the same thing.
They
I was thinking that, because these carriage houses we tend to say no to, but if you want water in the garage, we say yes. Variance, yes. Council variance, right.
I think they changed. I think between Acton and now, the city has changed their interpretation.
That was February of last year.
Yeah, February, between Acton, the city has changed what they would consider habitable space, and I've been on this committee for a long time, and the definition of habitable space is one of those that's elusive. It's an elusive, it's an elusive definition. And I wish maybe that's something. Is there a question that you would like, clarification you'd like from the city on this? You'd recommend me asking from the city for this before it goes to the commission?
That's not really,
I
this
guess
happens right
why
there.
is it this way versus a variance? Why is this not council instead of BZA?
And I think, I would like to understand why you want to buy back. This is treated as
And I do think they changed. I remember we had that variance where the person, they changed in the middle, they almost required the person to switch from a BZA variance to a council variance in the middle, because one person in the building and zoning services changed their mind as to what habitable space was and wouldn't issue a building permit unless there was a habitable space variance. that was like in the middle, and they basically grandfathered that one and said, no, we're not to take the start from scratch. And that was between then and now. And part of the problem, normally we'd have zoning trainings, but the problem is, just so everyone know why, it's hard for us to go to zoning. The night that we meet is one of only 2 evenings where no area commission meets. And so the city likes to schedule meetings and trainings on the night we meet. So it makes it hard for us to go to the training.
One suggestion.
Yes,
I think we delved in a little bit into discussion, should we do,
community comment.
yeah, commissioner report? And
I don't have a commissioner report. Do we have it, do you want to do public comment? Do you have more questions? Public comment? Yes.
The reason it is a council variance is because it's right there on the application. Proposed use, new detached carriage house with habitable space above. It is changing the use. It will be an R3 with R2F use. So it is giving a apartment above this garage. Whether that was the intended use at this time is irrelevant. By granting the council variance, it means that a full bathroom can go in. Whether it's a shower or a sink, doesn't make any difference. Once the sewer line is run, then it is an accessory dwelling on the same property.
Is it a new detached carriage house? And they're keeping the existing garage and adding on to it?
Mm-hmm.
But I think, but just say, I think up until recently, the city would say, as long as you weren't putting in, I think it was a full bath or a kitchen.
It was water and sewer.
Water and sewer, but another time then they switched to kitchen.
That's been changed.
After you left, they said kitchen,
See,
and
I turned my back.
you wouldn't have to do a council variance. They keep changing.
Is this thing a kitchen?
Yeah, no, I think it has to be a sink, a stove, and that's the thing, is they used to actually require it to be almost a mother-in-law suite before you called it habitable space. So if you only approved a BZA variance, they couldn't put in I know, one thing they couldn't do with the BZA variance is they couldn't put in the full shebang, a bath, sink, kitchen, and kitchen. Those were the big, toilet, including toilet. They couldn't do that, but we could approve, you could give a BZA variance and let them have like a sink, or let them have HVAC, and the city rules would stop them from basically turning it into a mother-in-law suite. What the city has done is take that middle ground away from us. That middle ground where you could just say, turn it into office space. And so now it's one or the other. And unless they find some way to add conditions to it, and that's what the city's done, is made a starker choice. They did. That middle ground was nice because it assuaged a lot of concerns. But we don't have that tool anymore. And the city has been, ever since I know they really have been fluid on that definition.
I know that we've had 2 similar variances over the history, and I know one of them, which was almost identical, except that the garage was connected to the house via breezeway at our request. And those people moved away. The people who bought the house, that is now a rental apartment. So, and it's an illegal use, but if nobody tells, until somebody complains.
Or until they try to sell the place.
Yeah, well, and that's, people have honorable intentions, but the next owner may not be honorable.
Okay.
I have another question that I would like clarified. If the application says that this is a new carriage house with habitable space, why are we reviewing a variance for garage heads?
I think the council can grant that as well.
If it's a detached accessory building, the height limit for a detached accessory building is 15 feet.
So the terminology that they're using on the application is new carriage house, but
It's an accessory
It's an
building.
accessory building, so it falls under those guidelines, which is why we need to
sorry for, do we have any other public comment? Going once, going twice, okay. Do I have a motion to approve and then we can discuss?
I motion.
Do a second?
Second.
Okay. I will shut up and listen.
Well, I just wondered if it's just a different understanding of wording. And to you, habitable space is like, an office, stuff like that. To us, it's like space above a garage. To us, habitable space means someone can live there. Okay, so whenever we hear habitable space, we're thinking, okay, someone can live there. But that's not what you wanted to happen. But, maybe the person that took the application didn't really understand. Maybe there was just a miscommunication there. So that's why I was just double check back and see if it can't just be a BZA versus a council variance. Because the last carriage house we had, I don't think we actually voted on it, was West North Broadway, where they wanted to put a carriage house behind the duplex. And the carriage house before that, I think we voted down.
The carriage house that was not an accessory building, that was just, yeah.
Why was that not?
Because it was an apartment, that was just straight to an apartment.
There was a garage.
Yeah, but was it? Yeah, okay, okay. That's not correct. You're right.
What did you say, it's still?
Considering accessory building.
So it's weird that the city uses terms like carriage house, even on the applications, because it's not defined anywhere in the code, right?
I don't know that for sure, can't answer that question, but it may be somewhere defined.
So the thing that we need to consider as we're working on approval is not the intent of the applicant. It's exactly the approval that was granted, because once you granted the ability to add all the sanitary and water and everything that could allow the space to be habitable, the real estate bears all for perpetuity. So the consideration needs to be, are we approving what it can be, not necessarily the intent of the applicant. So basically, as stated, we're referring to a habitable space that could potentially be a secondary dwelling on the lot. And that's what we're considering regardless of the intent.
Let's just say that happened, wouldn't I have to come back, or whoever owns the property have to come back and ask for a variance for multiple people, multiple homes?
Well, if you add a restroom to a space, theoretically, you should be, getting a permit for that. However, once all of the utilities are in place, you don't, it's not apparent what you're doing in your enclosed space. So, and that's why, that's part of the consideration that we need to make. Because, you can't micromanage how someone that owns a property is dealing with it. So, the things that you can control, for example, might be bringing the sanitary to that space. And if you're talking about doing a whole addition and expansion, that's apparent. Every neighbor, everybody driving by, that's visually something that could be seen and would very potentially inevitably be checked out if there was no associated permit for it. That's the issue. Not what you intend, but what it can be, because it's real estate and it's for perpetuity.
One thing that I'd like to consider is not the issue of habitable space, is just the issue of the relative size of the main dwelling and the accessory building on the site. accessory building that is 30% larger than the main dwelling on the site. Is that in keeping with the rest of the properties in the area? Is that something we want to set a precedence for? That's something we want to see, where you have carriage houses that are dwarfing the main structure on the property. And I think that's probably, with this application, the one that kind of draws my concern the most. Habitable space, we've been seeing that a lot. That's coming. Definition of habitable space is shifting. It's been nebulous, and somebody puts an office in, is that habitable space or not? I don't know that in this case, that's my main concern here. I think what we're looking at is just the lot, the proportions of the two buildings on the lot, and what they're used for. I think it doesn't necessarily keep in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood.
So, yeah, and if you look at the lot, right, and as you said, it's kind of the way the lot is shaped, right? If you wanted to build onto your house, let's say, maybe not the full, I don't know exactly, I don't have it in front of me, but let's say you built another 800 square feet onto the back of the house, right? That is the option that the applicant went through, sort of, in theory, right? They tried to figure that out, not enough light, issues with access to the garage, but that is, and so you could reasonably, or you could say, okay, well, they couldn't add 800 feet on the house, so they're just gonna put it in the next spot, the next best spot, which is this separate structure on the ground.
I would make an argument that looking at the site plan, that the applicant could add 800 square foot of their house to their house without coming to us for a variance, given the setbacks and the size of the lot. So it's just variances, not cost, no other factors figured in, so I get that. I'm just saying that you could, judging by the looks of the plans, add 800 square foot to the house without coming to us for variance.
Couldn't they also extend that covered porch to the house, and then the variance for habitable space being detached goes away? To that point.
In theory, but is that skirting the law and getting around it by following the letter and not the intent?
Well, I'm just saying, I think we don't know if it's feasible. She said it's not feasible for them to do renovation. But I think they could just as easily attach the secondary dwelling to the main home.
We can vote independent. There's 3 variances, right? So we have 3 different votes on each of these variances.
Potentially.
On the floor, we have a motion to approve it as submitted. We can divide, if someone makes a motion, we can divide them up into 3 and vote separately. That's, anyone can, I think that'd be an amendment, a motion to amend. And then
You put the motion on the floor.
so the motion on the floor is the motion, the whole thing motion we approved. So you see, I guess, I think Roberts allows us to amend it with consent if everyone wanted to.
So I guess I'm motioning to vote on each of these independently. Is that,
You would need to make a motion to take your current approval off the table.
well, I guess I'm motioning to take current approval off the table.
All in favor?
Does that have to be seconded?
Second, is there a second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. You wanna make a separate?
So I'm making a separate motion to vote for all of these independently.
Wait, just do a motion for the first one.
Okay. I want a motion to vote on the first one.
Which
What's the
is,
first one?
The size of the garage.
720 to 1092.
do we have is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, that's up, and so we have this, the first one is on the floor. Do we, any additional comment on that? And you can make your comments. You can have a choice. You can continue the discussion, or you can make your comments as we go. If someone has more comments, now I'll give you the chance.
I guess my comment would be mostly to the applicant, is if one of these variances does not get approved, what would be your plan for this project? Would you proceed or not?
a serious talk with the architect and decide whether or not, we could accomplish what we wanna accomplish with this addition in the expense, with a smaller footprint, and if the answer was no, then I think we have some hard decisions to make about what we do. One thing I wanted to add with regard to the size is I did forget to mention barriers we see to developing onto the back of the house is the out deck there. It's relatively new and we enjoy that outdoor space, so we really didn't want to take it down. There's a nice functional deck to put on vacation.
Any other comment before we vote on the first one?
Size variance.
This is, we are voting on to increase the garage size from 700 square feet to 1,092 square feet. That's what's on the table right now. Unless there's comments, I'll start with, Sharon, start with you.
I'm thinking.
If you'd like, we can, I'll come back to you second to last if you'd like.
Okay, I'm just thinking through all.
Okay. Andrea?
Yes.
I'm sorry Diane Paper is not here because she would be surprised when we say it's too big.
No, I just think the size compared to the size of the main building on the site, it just doesn't make sense. It's too large.
Andrea?
I would also say no to the size for the same reason.
No for the issue of, well, obviously the size, but then the precedent that sets to build garage structures that are bigger than the size of the home.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna vote yes and defer my reasons. I think I've already said enough when I thought about it. So yes, so that, the first one is recommended no by a vote of 3 to 5. Do we have a motion on the second one?
So
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on just the second item, which is to increase the height of attached garage from 15 feet 0 inches to 22 feet 1 inch. Okay,
Yeah.
no,
No.
yes.
No,
Yes.
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 and the chair votes yes, so that's recommended approved 5 to 3.
Can we, I'm sorry, clarify those votes for me?
Can you repeat your vote so that he can get recorded your votes?
Yeah, no.
Yes.
You got everyone?
And then it was yes. Got it, thanks.
Okay. On to 3, do I have a motion to approve 3, allow for habitable space in a garage to not be connected directly to habitable space within the single unit dwelling? I have a motion to approve that.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, I'll start at this end this time.
Yes.
Yes.
no,
This is a habitable space.
Yes.
I just want to say that, I gotta say no. I want you to have what you want. I want you to have your garage. I want you to have your water up there, stuff like that. The habitable space, I just gotta say no to.
So you'd be fine with water,
Oh, absolutely.
water and HVAC?
Like the other Acton house, or the other Acton garage, absolutely, but not a constant variance, no.
No.
And I'll vote yes, but that means it fails by a vote of 4 to 4 for want of a majority. So the recommendation on that is no. And
Commissioner was here, they could split that.
yeah.
We've never had that happen, have we?
it has happened.
Not in your tenure.
I know that that's a loss because I have lost Ohio Supreme Court cases by a vote of 3 to 3.
You need the majority there?
So these recommendations go to the committee. I will ask the city's representative to talk to the commission about what they mean by habitable space. I feel for you because you really are stuck in, the council, they took away that wonderful middle ground when you could just say, where you could make it an office, but not a mother-in-law suite. Now to vote yes, we have to vote yes on a mother-in-law suite. And one last comment for the commissioners, here, anytime you have a chance to talk to anyone about the rezoning process, tell them, for God's sake, get us some clarity on garages. Right now, we're making, I think it's ridiculous that we're making ad hoc policy garage by garage. It's not fair to people making plans, it's not fair to neighbors, it's not fair to anyone. And if they could give some clearer rules so that people could build more of what they wanted, then it would be nice. But with that, do I have and I strongly get actual either emails or letters from your neighbors. It doesn't have to be affidavits, it's just something that says, I support this. If they say, I support this because I want to see the shade, whatever it is, in the minimum, I support this, or I don't oppose it. I think that those can be very persuasive to the commissioners. And so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Next meeting.
Oh, next meeting, sorry,
The Area Commission.
The Area Commission will meet August 3rd, 7 p.m. at the Whetstone Library. Our next meeting is Wednesday, August 30th. That's the fifth Wednesday of the month at the same place here at 7 p.m. And so we get 5 weeks before the next meeting. I think it's 5, yeah, I think it's 5. Anyway, so, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And approved without objection, adjourned at 8:27, I'm gonna stop.